Good morning and welcome to the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be followed by an invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll begin with the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, I pray that you will guide this board, our staff and stakeholders this morning as we make decisions about a finite resource. I hope that you will guide us in a direction of respecting private property rights while also hearing the concerns of the surrounding community members and also thinking about future generations as we make these decisions. As always, I ask for blessings for first responders and members of the armed forces throughout our community and all across the nation and abroad. I pray that you will keep them safe and guide them each and every day. I ask for these blessings in your heavenly name. Amen.
Okay, this morning I see we have 7 commissioners present in person, so I don't need a roll call, correct? Or do I? No. Okay, that's what I thought. Just wanted to check. I've gotten so used to it. And it's here, so. And with that, Mr. Moreta, you are recognized.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Moreta, Development Services. For the record, I'll go right into the changes to the agenda. The changes were distributed yesterday afternoon, and they had some attachments that relate to these items, and I'll speak to those when we make the changes. On agenda page 7, item B6, application RZ-STD 21-0121. The agency comment section is in the backup section, and this is with respect to the school board's comment that was reviewed, mentioned in the report, but somehow found its way out of the record, has been reinserted back in the record and provided back to the board. It was in the record prior to the ZHN and up through, so just want to make that clear. Agenda page 18, item G3. The applicant is asking that this be remanded to the June 14th zoning hearing master meeting. Agenda page 7, item G2, rezoning PD-20-0394. The revised conditions have been added to the backup for this item as an attachment to the email in the addendum that was sent yesterday to the commission. Having said that, excuse me, I'll go ahead and get into the changes that are listed on the agenda itself. Item A1, PD 18-0996, staff is requesting the item be continued to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A2, DRI 19-0841, staff is requesting the item be continued to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A3, rezoning PD-20-1255, staff is requesting the item be remanded to the June 14th zoning hearing master meeting starting at 6 p.m. Item A4, major modification 21-0033. Staff is requesting the item be continued to the June 8, 2021 board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A5, personal appearance 21-0204. The application has been withdrawn by staff. Item A6, personal appearance 21-0254. This application is out of order. It's being continued to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A7, personal appearance 21-0255. The applicant is requesting the item be continued as a matter of right to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A8, personal appearance 21-0259. The applicant is requesting the item be continued as a matter of right to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A9, personal appearance 21-0311. The application is out of order, being continued to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A10, the applicant is requesting the item be continued as a matter of right to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Excuse me. Item A11, personal appearance 21-0362. The applicant is requesting the item be continued as a matter of right to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. And finally, no, not finally, we have 2 more, sorry. Item A12, personal appearance 21-0474. This application is out of order. It's being continued to June 8th. And now finally, we have item A13, personal appearance 21-0060. Staff is requesting that item be continued to the June 8th board meeting starting at 9 a.m. Commissioners, that concludes all the changes. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to move the changes by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Overman. Losing my voice here. And if we could have a roll call vote, please.
You can record your vote on your tablet.
I'm sorry, that's right. Thank you. Okay,
Motion carried 7-0.
thank you. Have to get retrained, yes, that's it. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Moretta, and let's move to the board. Can I have a motion then to approve changes to the, or to approve the consent agenda? We'll move to the consent agenda?
Second.
Okay. Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Overman, and
No, Myers.
Myers. I'm just going to make it default to Commissioner Myers, and then I'll change from there. I'll do that. And with that, if we can see no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. And so with that, if you have a B item, your item's been approved. And we will now move to the oath. Right now, if you're planning to testify today, please raise your right hand and be sworn in by the clerk.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're at public hearings. We'll see if we hit a bump in the road today. We're moving right along. Before we begin our first public hearings of the morning, I'd like to take an opportunity to remind all of the speakers, including those participating in person at Saunders Library and those participating remotely, of our meeting participation process. When it's your turn to speak, I'll recognize you as speaker. For those participating in person at the Saunders Library, I ask that you respect our social distancing guidelines there, remain seated, and please do not approach the podium to speak until I've called on you. Thank you. And we will now move to the, I believe, vacating portion of the agenda. Mr. Moretta, you are recognized.
Thank you, Commissioners. This moves to item C1 on the agenda. This is a public hearing for vacating petition V21-0001. This item will be presented, and staff will be available for questions and answers by the Real Estate Department.
Thank you, and good morning, Commissioners. Can you see the location map on the screen?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Thank you. This is item C1. Item C1 is a platted subdivision vacate with the Hillsborough County ID V21-0001. This is a petition by Tampa Electric Company and JHAJ Entourage LLC to vacate the entire Winding Creek No Improvements subdivision plat, recorded in Plat Book 102, page 208 of the Public Records of Hillsborough County. Petitioners desire to vacate the area to allow for rezoning of the underlying property to agricultural rural for purposes of future development of the parcels. The proposed vacate area is located north of Valroy Road, south of Stevens Road, and west of U.S. Interstate 75 in Ruskin. The proposed vacate consists of approximately 3,544,254 square feet. The petition was routed to appropriate departments and agencies, and there have been no objections to the vacation of this plat. The staff recommends approval of this petition request.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I just said thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And this is a public hearing, and anyone who would like to speak to the item can be recognized now. Apparently is there anyone to speak to the item? Okay.
No, there isn't.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner White, and I said I was going to default by Commissioner Myers by the seconds, but I'll recognize. Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Smith. And seeing no further discussion, I'll just say that I asked and.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Is there someone there?
No, this is the clerk. That was not on the record. I need his motion on the record. I didn't get it through the audio.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Commissioner, go ahead.
Well, I just would like clarification from the clerk staff. In the past, I've never used a mic to make motions, and the chair has just always announced who made it. Do you want us to start using the mics?
It would be preferred, yes, sir.
Okay, I move the item.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have Commissioner White and Commissioner Smith has seconded the item. And I'll just say that I asked them, it was 3,544,254 square feet. And I was like, what does that mean in terms of, but anyway, it's 81 acres. And it may turn into a solar farm at some time. So I'm look forward to that if that happens. And with that, can we have no further discussion? Can we have a, I keep wanting to say roll call vote. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. And we will move now to Mr. Moretta.
Thank you. This brings us to item C2. This is vacating petition V21-0005. This again will be presented by the Real Estate Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, Brian Dion from the Real Estate Services Department. This is a petition by Hillsborough County Associates IV LLLP to vacate a platted public 20-foot wide drainage easement within the Valencia Del Sol Phase 1 plat, recorded in Plat Book 133, page 34 of the public records of Hillsborough County. This request is made for the purpose of relocating the existing drainage easement. The petitioner is providing adequate replacement drainage to the county within the approved plat of Valencia Del Sol Phase 3B, which was approved at the April 13, 2021 land use meeting. The proposed vacate area is located east of US Highway 301 and north of Sevilla Shores Drive in Waimama. The proposed vacate consists of approximately 5,920 square feet. The petition was routed to appropriate departments and agencies, and there are no objections to the vacation of this plat. Staff recommends approval of this petition request. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and anyone who would like to speak has 3 minutes.
There is no one.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further discussion.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Cohen. And seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Mr. Moretta?
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us up to item E1. This is a personal appearance for a minor modification to a plan development. They're increasing the entitlements by 74 square feet from 2,026 to 2,100 square feet. I'll move to the graphic. The graphic on the left, I'll indicate this is the existing site plan, Bell Shoals Road to the west, Lithia Road to the east. The current site plan has access to Bell Shoals Road. Existing structure is shown. The applicant is proposing to eliminate the access to the west and also to expand the structure placement to eliminate 10 feet in the front yard of setback, and then additionally move the access away from the intersection heading southeasterly direction along Lithia, and that will include the sole access for the project. Our transportation staff has reviewed it, our planning staff has reviewed it, and we are recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. And is the applicant present?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm virtual. My name is David Wright, president of TSP Companies. Our address is P.O. Box 1016, Tampa, Florida 33601. This request is the result of an eminent domain taking by the county for the widening of Lithia Pinecrest Road. The taking required the office structure that previously existed on the property to be demolished, and the property was utilized by the county for construction staging during the widening of the road. The property owner is seeking the minor modification to the PD to allow the office to be redeveloped now that the Bell Shoals Road construction has, Lithia Pinecrest Road construction has been completed. And as Mr. Moretta stated, it also includes the elimination of the Bell Shoals Road access point. I have nothing further, so I'll be available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have, this is a public hearing, and if we have proponent testimony? Is there any proponent testimony in support? Okay, we'll move to opponent testimony. Is there any opponent testimony against?
We have no one in the audience here.
Okay, so we'll move on to the, any recommendations at this point?
Move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Overman to move approval. Myers. I said I was going to default and I didn't do it. Myers. Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioner Myers. And seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. It looks like we're now on the section of the agenda with no oral argument filed. So, Mr. Moretta, you are recognized.
That is correct, Commissioners. We're on item F1. This is a proposal to rezone to a standard district. It's application number 21-0303. The comp plan is R1. It's in the rural service area. The request is to rezone from AR, permitting 1 unit per 5 acre, to 1 dwelling unit per acre. The application did not qualify for consent, has no oral argument filed. However, it is an increase in density in the rural service area, and therefore it landed on the F area of the agenda. Staff is recommending approval. It has all approvals from Zoning Hearing Master and Planning Commission as well. We're available for questions if needed.
Move approval.
We have
Second.
a motion by Commissioner White to move approval. And was that Commissioner Myers? Thank you. With a second by Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
I noticed that there's no school capacity reference to this particular item. And there is the potential for a grid, although the CSX lines are there. So I'm looking for connectivity. We're actually increasing the density in the area, but we have no opinion from the area schools to give us an idea of whether or not there's any capacity in that area for managing the schools. I know that comes later, but I'm a little concerned about moving forward with creating density in the rural area without a commitment from the school or a review from the school. So while I wouldn't necessarily be against the project at this point, moving forward without that information seems like not the right thing to do. So can someone give me some guidance on why that was not included in this particular request?
Staff, or is there someone that can speak to that?
I mean, normally we do have that as part of this process, correct?
Commissioner,
I'm looking for it. I'm not seeing it.
I'm going to wait a second, Commissioner, until. Do we? Is there anyone from Development Services, the attorneys, anybody?
Yeah, Commissioners, I'm looking at the backup, and it appears we have 2 comments from the school, one of which doesn't have substantive comments, the other one does, but it appears that that is not the right case number for that backup. So let me.
That's what I'm
take-
trying. I was
take a
like, I'm
moment
looking
and
through
check
it. I'm
on
not
that.
seeing it. And so, I mean, if it's there, that's great. I'd love to have someone review it with us before we approve this project.
Yes, we'll apologize for that, Commissioner. We'll get to the comment right away.
I'm going to take the heat for a second off Mr. Gormley, and we'll see. Commissioner White, I know, wants to speak, so you're recognized.
Thank you. I just want to point out that they are asking to rezone to an agricultural zoning district, ASC 1 acre lots. I know the area very well. I mean, I don't have the information in front of me, but I'm going to say I'm probably 95+% sure that these homes will be boundaried for Pinecrest Elementary, probably Turkey Creek Middle, and Durant High. I'm a Durant parent. I know for a fact that that school is well under capacity. Okay. Pinecrest, I've never heard of any capacity issues there. If I'm right about it being Turkey Creek Middle, I mean, I don't think they have any major capacity issues there either, but I would obviously want staff to substantiate all that, but I certainly don't, in this particular case, I don't have any concerns about the schools at all, but we definitely want to hear from our experts on staff, though.
Could I respond?
Commissioners,
Yes.
we were able to find the comment. We could
Yeah,
have
Joe,
that.
if you'd put that up on the Elmo so everybody can see it, please.
Is it acceptable to send the comments to the commission and yourself, Adam, through an email?
Yes, would you also put it up so we can see it while we're talking about it here, please?
We'll have to send it to someone's computer and see if we can share the screen, so we'll work on that. We'll get back to you in a second.
Okay, in the meantime, I'm going to let Commissioner Overman want to speak.
Thank you. And Commissioner White, thank you for your comments, because real time always helps. The other item and the only other reason why I would feel comfortable with this, it does appear as though this project is an extension of the growth. I wasn't going to call it sprawl, but the growth of Plant City, which is great. And if, in fact, the CSX line acts as a natural barrier to that growth, I'd be willing to support the program, assuming that schools are available.
Yes,
So-
and while we're getting that up, I do have the comment in front of me. It is Pinecrest Elementary with the existing enrollment plus project traffic. Proposed utilization will be at 86% for the elementary. Turkey Creek Middle School with the enrollment and project capacity, it would be at 80% capacity. And lost it. And it'd be Durant High School with the existing enrollment and student generation, it would be at 89%. So all three schools are below 90% with the project traffic and existing traffic. And I do apologize for not having that in the backup for you.
Thank you very much. That addresses my concerns. Thank you very much.
Okay, gold star for Commissioner White. And with that, seeing, I don't think, any further discussion, good that to recognize that the information wasn't available there, so thank you for that. And seeing no further discussion, I'm sorry, I don't know if we had a motion as to this at this time.
Yeah.
Was it Commissioner White, did you make a motion to approve? Okay, sorry. And Commissioner Overman, second?
Nope. Myers.
Myers. Okay. And with that, I see no further discussion. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Mr. Moretta.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us up to item G1.
Our regular
These are
agenda. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Are we good?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Back to item G1. These are cases that have oral argument filed. This is rezoning for Standard District 20-0374. The application is located between Williams Road, Lakewood Drive, on the south side of Martin Luther King. It's several hundred feet away from Lakewood Drive. It's actually closer between the two. And I'll propose to put the graphic up on the side. Commissioners, just to give you some proximity, this is Lakewood, Williams Drive, Martin Luther King Drive, and this site is proposed right here. The applicant is proposing to rezone the CG. The current zoning is RDC 12, which permits duplex zoning at 12 units per acre. Staff is recommending denial of the request. The request is to rezone the CG with a R condition. The R condition places restrictions on the application that would the applicants agree to restrict themselves to placing a 6-foot PVC fence. Is also listed some primary uses of the site that will not be utilized. If a car wash is used with the site as an accessory use, then it would be allowed, but not as a primary use of the site. Also indicated that major and minor vehicle repair will not be allowed. However, if it's allowed as an accessory use, for example, as part of car sales, then that type of repair would be allowed. The application is proposing that open storage not be allowed, plasma banks not be allowed, and adult uses not be allowed as well. Staff found this to be not supportable based on the comprehensive plan finding of inconsistency. Planning Commission will be speaking to that in their presentation, but they primarily listed transition of use with policies listed in the comp plan and also those listed in the Seffner-Magno Community Plan. Again, oral argument's been filed. DSD staff is not supporting it, and you'll also hear now from the Planning Commission and also the ZHM. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So oral argument has been filed for this item, and I'll need a motion and a vote to open for oral argument.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner White, and I'll put a second by Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Overman. I think I'm going to need hand raising. And with that, seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, Mr. Moretta? I guess we're, with your identification of the item, we'll move to oral argument by the applicant.
He's coming up.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg, Florida. Good morning to you all. I do have a PowerPoint for you, and I do have Mr. John Greibel here, who is the property owner. His family is the property owner. If we could pull that up, please. Thank you. Madam Chair, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So this is RZ-20-0374. Next slide, please. Located in the Seffner-Mango area on MLK, east of I-75. Next slide, please. It's actually composed of two separate parcels, which would be one entire project area. Next slide, please. The issue is 0.58 acres going from RDC 12 to CGR. So that is commercial general with a significant restriction, which would only allow for a car sales lot. So the uses proposed would be a car wash, but only as an accessory use for vehicles, not like an open primary use car wash, but just in regard to the car sales lot. No open storage, major minor vehicle repairs needed, nothing like blood plasma banks or donations, no adult uses, nothing like that. All that is restricted. Next slide, please. Commissioners, the comp plan in our evaluation strongly supports this site. And first of all, it meets locational criteria. Goal 3 of the Seffner-Mango Community Plan does include strategies to concentrate commercial development just like this along East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Next slide, please. Provides for growth in the urban service area as required by Objective 1. and under the Seffner Mango Community Plan, support infill development and redevelopment in the urban service area, which we are doing. Next slide. On the future land use map, it is R9, which allows non-residential uses and shall meet established locational criteria, which we do meet. Next slide, please. Zoning map. Next slide, please. Now, critically, we have a commercial intensive use CG on the east side. We've submitted letters from neighbors and the abutting neighbors of no opposition on the west side and to the south. So this site is surrounded by no opposition and commercial uses, and of course, commercial uses across the street. Next slide, please. Located in a 6-lane major arterial artery, 42,000 average daily trips. Next slide, please. We don't believe in any case that is suited for residential development, at least as we're looking at it now. Next slide, please. Now, according to the Planning Commission, we made great lengths to demonstrate to the staff that there was no opposition to any affected property owners, but the Planning Commission does not accept those or include that in their evaluation for their staff report. And that is primarily what PG&M relied upon. Next slide, please. We're providing a 6-foot PVC fence against the residential use, which are on the record for no opposition, 4-foot high in Thomas. Evergreen shade trees not less than 10 feet high at the time of planting, spaced every 10 feet versus every 20 feet. So we're basically doubling the planting density. Next slide. PGM recommendation. Now, this is important because they base their recommendation on the Planning Commission inconsistency filing, as it would not provide for proper use transition between the existing single-family uses. But again, we've shown you that the existing single-family uses are not in opposition and in support. And again, the Planning Commission does not factor that into their staff report. Next slide, please. Planning Commission primarily rests on concepts of policy 1.4 compatibility and protecting existing neighborhoods. But again, we've heard from those neighborhoods, and CGR that we're proposing is heavily restricted and better buffered and meets those concerns. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Goal and strategy of the Seffner Mango Community Plan is recognize the commercial character of US 92 and MLK within the urban service area, which we are inside of. Goal and strategy of the Seffner Mango Community Plan, support infill development and redevelopment within the USA while providing for compatibility with existing uses. We believe we're meeting those goals and strategies. Next slide. Goal 3, again, commercial development should be directed US 19 and MLK Boulevard, which is exactly what we're doing. Next slide, please. And it's a good transitional use from MLK to the uses behind the site. Next slide, please. And mind you, again, the site does meet locational criteria and it does provide growth in the USA under Objective 1. Next slide, please. So in summary, commissioners, CGR is very restrictive for this use. We have extremely strong residential support. No one has come forward at any of the hearings in opposition. We're exceeding landscaping requirements. It's not terribly conducive for residential. CG is abutting on the MLK, and there are many comp plan and Seffner Mango Community Plan policies that support and direct commercial on this site. Thank you. We appreciate your attention. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Mr. Greigel is hoping to make a quick comment.
Hello, my name is John Greigel. Address 11964 Neal Road, Lithia, Florida, 33547. And I would just, we've been working on this for over a year and would really appreciate your support and would help my family out greatly to get this done and make better use of this property than what it's currently being used as. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. And there are no anyone signed up for opposition or support in this case. So I'm assuming that the applicant, since they didn't use their time, will waive the rebuttal. And with that, if we can move to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Residential 9 future land use category. The site is located in the urban service area and also located within the limits of the Seffner Mango Community Plan. While the applicant has proposed some use restrictions and augmented buffering and screening, the proposal does not meet the compatibility criteria of the future land use element, or FLU, Policy 1.4. According to this policy, compatibility is defined as the characteristics of different uses or activities or design which allow them to be located near or adjacent to one another in harmony. Compatibility does not mean the same as, rather it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals in maintaining the character of existing development. A rezoning to commercial general would not be harmonious or compatible with the single-family residential character of the area directly to the west and the area south of the subject property along Thomas Road. FLU Objective 16 and its accompanying policies require the protection of existing neighborhoods through various mechanisms. FLU Policy 16.1 states that established and planned neighborhoods and communities shall be protected by restricting incompatible land uses, by limiting commercial development in residential land use categories to neighborhood scale. A rezoning to commercial general would be inconsistent with this policy direction. Policy 16.2 states that gradual transitions of intensities between different land uses shall be provided for as new development is proposed and approved through the use of professional site planning, buffering, screening techniques, and control of specific land uses. In this case, staff has determined that a rezoning to CG would not provide for a transition between the residential and commercial general uses nearby, and mitigation measures would not be able to achieve compatibility. Policy 16.5 further restricts higher intensity uses along arterials away from established neighborhoods. While East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is an arterial roadway, the rear of the site would be directly on Thomas Road, which is a local roadway. And a rezoning would encourage the encroachment of higher intensity uses into an existing residential neighborhood. As a result, the use is not compatible with the surrounding area and also does not meet the intent of future land use policy objective 16. The site meets commercial locational criteria as outlined in Objective 22 and Policy 22.2, as it is located within 1,000 feet of the commercial node located at Lakewood Drive and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. However, Policy 22.7 states that commercial locational criteria is not the only factor to be considered. Factors such as land use compatibility are also considered, and in this case, Planning Commission staff has concerns regarding the compatibility of the proposed land uses in close proximity to the single-family residential dwellings. The commercial locational criteria section of the future land use element also contains additional policy direction about the location of new non-residential developments. This policy direction outlines that with new non-residential developments at intersections, meeting locational criteria, a transition in land use should be established that recognizes the existing surrounding community character and supports the creation of a walkable environment. The transition includes clustering the most intense land uses toward the intersection and providing less intense uses such as offices, professional services, or specialty retail toward the edges of the commercial node. In this case, while the site does meet commercial locational criteria, it is located approximately 610 feet west of the intersection within a 1,000-foot node. According to policy direction, the uses should be transitioning to less intense uses moving away from the intersection. Currently at the intersection of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and Lakewood Drive, there is approximately a 15,000 square foot drugstore use with a drive-through, which is a Walgreens pharmacy. According to the aforementioned policy direction, a rezoning to commercial general restricted would not meet the transition of use policies in the comprehensive plan. Lastly, the rezoning request is not consistent with the Seffner Mango Community Plan direction. Goal 3 of the community plan includes strategies to concentrate commercial development, office development, and light industrial development along Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. However, Goal 2 prohibits commercial encroachment in residential areas south of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. The site is adjacent to existing residential uses directly west and then across Thomas Street to the south, which is approximately 60 feet away from the limits of the subject property. As the subject site is directly south of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and in an existing residential area, a rezoning to commercial general would be inconsistent with the vision of the Seffner Mango Community Plan. And based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll now move to the zoning hearing master recommendation.
Thank you. The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for a rezoning of the property to a CGR, Commercial General Restricted Zoning District. This property is 0.58 acres in size and currently zoned to RDC 12, designated Residential 9 by the Comprehensive Plan. As you heard, the Planning Commission staff does not support the request. Staff testified that the subject property meets commercial locational criteria, but that other factors regarding compatibility and the transition of uses in accordance with the comprehensive plan future land use element resulted in their recommendation and finding of inconsistency. The Planning Commission found that the request is inconsistent with policy 16.1 regarding the protection of existing residential neighborhoods. The zoning hearing master found that the property is bordered by property zoned RDC 12 to the west and south across Thomas Street. The parcel directly across the street is zoned planned development and developed with an apartment complex. Immediately to the east is an existing retail drugstore, zoned planned development. The drugstore zoning conditions permit the redevelopment of the property with CG uses only if a traffic analysis is submitted that shows that the traffic generated by the proposed use is consistent with the existing drugstore traffic. The zoning hearing master found that the restrictions proposed by the applicant do not limit the property use to a single or limited number of uses, but rather permit the wide range of CG, commercial, and retail uses that would generate a high volume of traffic and operation at all hours of day and night. The zoning hearing master concluded that although the property does meet the commercial locational criteria as established in the plan, the request for a car sales lot with minor and major vehicle repair and a car wash, as well as a range of CG uses, is inappropriate for the mix of single-family, multifamily, and low-intensity commercial development in this area, and the zoning hearing master therefore recommended denial.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move to board discussion. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. And I agree with the zoning hearing master that although they're portraying this as being restricted uses within commercial general, the only restrictions are it won't be blood plasma and it won't be adult business. Other than that, they can have a used car sales lot, they can include auto repair with that, and all the rest of, as the zoning hearing master said, the wide range of uses in commercial general. There are less intensive uses that include some business if you wanted to go that way here, or there are more restrictions you could put. They haven't even restricted the operations of hours or you know, the intensity of traffic in any way. It leaves the door too far open, as our planning commission and development services staff and the zoning hearing master has said. So I just, you know, I think they should have listened to that advice before they got here and tried a little harder to limit the commercial uses in that area. The fact that the developer has been able to persuade a couple of neighbors who are there right now that to go along with it is I mean, you have to consider the fact that those neighbors may or may not be there forever. We have to think about the long-term plan for the area. So I'll move the recommendation that has come before us of denial.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith. Is there, Commissioner Overman, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Overman, and Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I have similar concerns. I think this is, Martin Luther King is at this point is an area where it makes sense to have either commercial or multifamily because you have the barrier to the residents on the inside. While I'm not really ever a big fan of car sales lots, but just that's my bias, there are other purposes for this particular property that also could make sense, and a car lot could make sense. But having the wide open CG code, zoning code or approval does sort of compromise the idea that an intense use on a street that is has become a major corridor would make sense, except for in this particular case, you're backed up right up against homes. So that transition to a neighborhood is less able in this particular circumstance. And as a consequence of that, having an approval with certain restrictions in order to protect those residents until those homes are no longer homes, I think is an appropriate course of action. What I am happy to see about this particular piece, though, which actually I think the Planning Commission and the department had some concern about, was that there was 2 ways to come in and out of the property, which does provide some relief on MRK and provides for some circulation, which I always like to see. But without any understanding of how that's really going to work at this point, it would be difficult to move forward as it stands. There is real potential here. I think we just really need to take a look at how that zoning would apply to the people that actually are living right on that corridor, which is challenging for the people living on the corridor. But I think in this case, there is a solution. I just don't think we're there yet. I'll stop there.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Overman. Myers. A motion to deny, and I don't see Commissioner Cohen recognized.
Yeah, this is really a shame for this to go down in flames because I think that Commissioner Smith and Overman are right. I mean, there could be a few more restrictions placed on this that would provide some additional benefit to the owner without the entire thing having to be scrapped. I mean, I think it's salvageable, and I always hate to see it. It seems to me it's always unfortunate when things come through here and you just can't get it a little further along. I don't know how much control the applicant has over that at this point in the process.
Commissioner White, you're recognized.
To Commissioner Cohen's point, would a continuance be an option to work that out, or what are the options available?
You have 2 options. One would be a continuance if the applicant wanted to offer more restrictions. If that was the route, we wouldn't have another review or the benefit by the zoning hearing master, but it could be an opportunity to further restrict the application. The other would be to remand it back to the zoning hearing master for a hearing on a modified application that would include additional restrictions consistent with what the board's.
So if the applicant has some more time to do some more work and decide whether or not they want to add additional restrictions, they could do that in the absence of a remand. That could just be done on continuance?
It could be done on continuance to further restrict what's being requested right now. Again, it wouldn't have it wouldn't get another ZHM review.
Commissioner Cohen, that would be available to you as a substitute motion.
Well, don't know if I can make that without the applicant coming forward and requesting it. That, I guess, was my question.
And to that
Procedurally, on city council, you couldn't do that. The applicant had to ask for it in order for it to and if that's a different than the rule is here, so that was why I was a little unclear whether it was appropriate to try to do that or not.
I believe it's different, but
Yeah, and there is an element here, since this is a standard zoning district with restrictions, we can only impose those restrictions that are affirmatively offered up by the applicant. So it's not like a planned development where we have additional conditions. The applicant has to make that request for adding additional restrictions. So I think it would be appropriate to hear, if the board would like to, whether the applicant is willing to suggest or propose additional restrictions on what is
Commissioners?
proposed.
yes.
And just in Saunders, the applicant has advised us that they're willing to make some additional changes to the application to restrict use. I don't know if that informs the discussion or not, but they're amenable to either a continuance or remand.
Let's do a continuance.
That's what I think. I'd like to make a substitute motion for a continuance.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a substitute motion for continuance with Commissioner Cohen and seconded by Commissioner White. We have several commissioners in the queue. Okay, you're out. Okay. Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Yes, and I'm going to support giving the applicant more time. I would have preferred a remand because that would allow the Planning Commission and the Zoning Hearing Master to review and weigh in on whether they become comfortable with the conditions or not. Mr. Gormley, is there, I think what happens if it's a continuance is then we can ask questions of the Planning Commission staff. We can ask questions of you in our briefings. But if it's commercial general if it stays commercial general rather than, say, going to commercial neighborhood or business professional office, would you be able to advise us that the restrictions that they propose have overcome the problems that you currently see could happen with the wide range of uses allowed?
Depending on what the applicant offers, we would endeavor to give that type of feedback to the board. The record will still be set in terms of factual evidence that could be considered, but if the applicant were to propose additional restrictions on this project, we'd certainly come back and provide some perspective on the board of how those additional restrictions relate to what were our
good.
recommendations.
And let me just ask Ms. Leinhardt from the Planning Commission, would you be able to advise us, in a nuanced way about whether or not the restrictions proposed by the applicant have overcome your concerns about transition to residential uses, or are you more restricted in your finding of consistency or inconsistency with commercial general? Can you incorporate review and advice about the restrictions they put on commercial general restricted use and advise us if this comes back with stronger restrictions?
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that question. For the record, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. As Adam did mention, the continuance would allow us to make general statements about the changes and say whether an applicant is moving in the right direction. But again, for the record, we would not be able to change our finding. In order to do that and to allow my team and I to take more of a deep dive into the proposed changes, we would need to have the item remanded.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. In this case, I will go along with the continuance rather than a a remand because it just seems like something that, as you said, Commissioner Cohen, we're closer, and Commissioner Overman. So I'll go along with it, but it's just good to understand that, you know, there might be other cases where the remand would be more appropriate procedurally. Thank you.
Okay, and seeing no further discussion at this point, we have a motion for continuance. It was made by Commissioner Cohen, seconded by Commissioner White. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
And board members, this date will be June 8th at 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, and we are on G2 at this time. Mr. Moret, I see that oral argument has been filed in this case, so we'll need a motion and a vote to open for oral argument. Second. Who did you see?
So moved. I was trying to get that mic on.
Okay, so we have.
And I will second that for you.
Okay, we have a Commissioner White, a motion to open for oral argument, seconded by Commissioner Overman. Commissioner White, did you want to be recognized?
I'd like to be first in line at the end when we get to board discussion.
I have it, thank you. Okay, and so with that, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. And Mr. Moretta, you are recognized.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to item G2, rezoning PD-20-0394. This application is located about 500 feet north of the intersection of Boyette Road, Channing Park Road. The application is proposing residential development is in Res 2 of the comp plan. Current zoning is AR, which permits 1 unit per 5 acres. This application was opened and continued this hearing at the last board meeting, primarily to deal with a transportation matter and reevaluate it. The applicant has since proposed, working with staff, a new condition number 9. Mr. Mike Williams of our staff is going to speak to that item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Williams here with Development Services staff. So at the board's direction from last month, we went back and discussed with the applicant options for what could be done here and impose the condition. I believe that condition has been handed out to each of you this morning. Essentially, we have the applicant would extend the sidewalk from the existing Channing Park Road. It goes maybe 100 feet north of that intersection now and be extended another 500 feet or so to the north. And that would also include extending the curb up there to be able to fit the sidewalk in. And if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. And at this time, if we can recognize the applicant.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. I'm Michael Horner, 14502 North Dale Mabry Highway, Tampa 33618. I'll be brief. Commissioners, thank you for your consideration on this item. We worked diligently, as Mr. Williams noted, and Mr. Moretta. This condition has been amended. It does provide for what we think is an equitable solution to provide sidewalk improvements and connectivity. Again, this is 13.2 acres, 20 lots, 1.5 units per acre, urban service area, no objections, unanimous recommendations of approval. And we believe it's a reasonable and fair condition that my client and our team are happy to accept, and we would ask for your gracious support of this amended condition as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have no one signed up to speak in opposition or support. So at this time, and I'm assuming you'll waive rebuttal.
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, we'll move to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Residential 2 Future Land Use category. The site is located in the urban service area and also within the limits of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The applicant is requesting a planned development to develop the site with single-family residential. The proposed use is consistent with and is an allowable use within the Residential 2 Future Land Use classification. The subject site is located within the urban service area where most new growth should be directed per the comprehensive plan. As per policy 1.2 of the future land use element, these sites are to be developed at a minimum of 75% of the allowable density for each land use category. There is a total of 13.2 acres within this site, and that totals a maximum of 26 units that can be proposed. The applicant is requesting a density below what can be considered on the site, but it is meeting the minimum density consistent with policy 1.2 of the future land use element. The immediate development pattern consists of a mixture of lot sizes. There are large lot, single family detached residential uses to the north and east across Boyette Road, and smaller lots that are approximately a quarter acre in size that are located to the west. According to policy 1.4 of the future land use element, compatibility does not mean the same as. Rather, it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals and maintaining the character of existing development. Planning Commission staff has determined that the proposed use meets the intent of future land use element objective 16 and its accompanying policies regarding compatibility. These policies require compatibility of residential development to the surrounding area. The applicant is proposing a minimum lot size of 9,750 square feet, which is comparable to the lot sizes in the surrounding development pattern. And based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, subject to the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department. Thank you.
Thank you. And can we have the zoning hearing master's recommendation?
Yes, thank you. The zoning hearing master considered the request for rezoning of the subject property, which consists of approximately 13.2 acres of undeveloped land located on the west side of Boyette Road and north of Channing Park Road. The subject property is currently zoned agricultural rural, designated residential 2 on the future land use map. The request is to rezone the property to PD to allow a maximum of 20 single-family lots. And this is within the urban service area with water and wastewater services provided by the county. Within the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Community Plan area. The zoning hearing master looked at the surrounding properties and found that surrounding properties are zoned agricultural rural to the north, developed with large lots for use as residential and open space. Properties to the west are zoned PD and developed in residential use in the Channing Park neighborhood with lot sizes of approximately 8,700 square feet, 60 to 70 feet of lot width. Properties to the east are zoned AR, developed with single family residential, and property to the south is zoned planned development, development with open space adjoining Channing Park Road. The zoning hearing master's report explained the applicant's original objection to condition 9 as stated in the development services staff report originally regarding improvements to Boyette Road. As you've heard, for today's meeting, the applicant has agreed to the revised condition 9 proposed language regarding these transportation improvements. And so that issue was changed from the original zoning hearing master recommendation. The proposed plan development with a minimum lot size of 9,750 square feet is comparable to lot sizes in the surrounding development pattern with no issues of compatibility with regard to surrounding properties to the subject property. The zoning hearing master found that the proposed plan development with the approval conditions as recommended by Development Services is consistent with the residential 2 future land use designation and found the request to be consistent overall with the comprehensive plan. The zoning hearing master therefore recommended approval.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move to board discussion. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, as I said at the last meeting, I was ready to vote on this one last time. This is a small infill development site. The size of it pales in comparison to Channing Park and Fishhawk that it's surrounded by, and those and other developments are really the ones that are putting pressure on Boyette Road. One thing that I failed to ask staff at the last meeting, this developments portion of Boyette Road, if you will, is just a few hundred feet, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And under the original Condition 9, if that few hundred feet were improved to county standards, what would happen to that few hundred feet when the county gets ready to, bring all of Boyette Road up to county standards?
The existing improvement would have to either be blended in or redone depending on what the project would be.
Probably
It'd have-
redone.
it'd
I
have
mean,
to
I
be
would think you're going to
accommodated.
have trucks, driving, all over it and everything. Look, I think this new condition is reasonable. I think the applicant has made a good faith effort to do their part for transportation infrastructure around this development. So I will move approval of the item.
So we have a motion by Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioner Smith. And Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Right. And I agree, Commissioner, that, their section would have been small for a full-blown bring up to county standards. But I do feel like we are in such a pickle with transportation, to turn a phrase, that we need to ask everybody to pitch in to help alleviate their impacts. And this continuance has allowed this proposal to be made better in 2 important ways. Boyette Road is one of those substandard county roads that's barely wide enough for 2-way car traffic without the sidewalks and bike lanes, and the road drops off into steep drainage ditches on either side. So it's not as safe as it should be for pedestrian and cyclists. One of the suggestions I made was this developer could have contributed to the roundabout that is going in above, I think, at Dorman and Boyette Road. That would have been reasonable, but I agree these are reasonable improvements. When someone wants to develop in a way that is adding traffic to our roads, we need them to step up and make the roads safe for the cars and the people they are adding to the roads, and do their part in that. This rezoning proposal initially came to us with the applicant asking to do nothing to improve this substandard road. So I'm glad to see they are now willing to do a little something to improve the safety of the road where they are adding to the traffic. So that's the first way this proposal has been made better with road improvements. The second way this proposal has been made better is that the process of negotiating the road improvements has been brought up to our current process, which you can see in the new conditions with the strike through of that old-fashioned language, outdated language, let's say. This new current process is a more transparent, accessible, accountable process of negotiating road improvements and design exceptions. Originally, this came to us with the outdated language that used to allow the developer to work out the design exceptions after the zoning is granted in an administrative process behind the scenes. And that old way of doing things keeps the design exceptions and road improvements out of reach of this board and outside the public's view. The way this is brought to us now, everyone can see specifically what the road improvements the developer is committing to in this public hearing, and we can agree or not as a board, rather than leaving that to the applicant and staff to negotiate later privately after we grant the rezoning. That's a different kind of negotiation than when it's done along with the rezoning and after the public has any chance to review or participate. Now, actually, I do think it's important that all the road improvements are laid out publicly in the rezoning application, not just here, but before it goes to the zoning hearing master, so the public can fully understand what is being proposed for their local roads from the start. And that would allow the public to comment on the road improvements or the lack thereof at the zoning hearing before this final county commission hearing. And that would allow them to comment to the zoning hearing master and then to comment to us. Because remember that in Hillsborough County, if you don't make your comments at the zoning hearing on something, you don't get to make them here. So, you know, I know that we are doing most of our rezoning proposals that way now. But I want to go on record saying that to me, when this is not done, it would be a good reason for a remand all the way back to the zoning hearing master to ensure that the public has an opportunity to see how the roads will be handled and to provide public comment on that critical piece, so then they hold their place and they can talk to us about it. And the zoning hearing master and us can hear public comment about that. So in this case, I'll support this item now that it has incorporated these improvements, but I wanted to make those points with staff and the board about the improvements to the direction we're headed with improving this process for road improvements and design exceptions to be incorporated in the zoning at the zoning hearing master. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm also going to support moving this forward, but I do want to remind all of us, to your point, you know, there are issues that are challenging with any development in this area, and why Commissioner White, you've indicated that it's really not the density that's already been created in the area that compromises some of the issues here, because this is really only being proposed for approximately 20 units, which is great. But we have, according to the backup material, there's no school capacity in this area to address the fewer number of students, but the capacity's already been exceeded in the area. And there's still some significant wetland issues that probably in the process of going through this process for development that will have to be addressed. So while this particular project had several sort of barriers to moving forward, many of those things have been addressed. And I think looking at the process and addressing those issues, because school capacity, wetland, and transportation for any development in this area is going to be those issues that we're going to find are making it really challenging to move forward and to give potential development that makes sense for the area a clear road to success. So taking into consideration the pressures and the challenges that are in this particular area. It is inside the service area, so we have the service available for utilities and other infrastructure, which is potentially doable. But to your point, if we address some of those other capacity-related types of challenges or development challenges, especially in wetland circumstances, you know, it'll make it easier for these projects to move forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing that process improved with the recent changes. So I'll stop there.
And I don't see any other commissioners who are looking to speak, but good points, Commissioner Overman. But Commissioner Smith, I really want to thank you, I think, for bringing this back. And I understand, Commissioner White, it looks kind of de minimis in comparison to the huge projects that we face and everything. But I'm with Commissioner Smith on this, and that I really appreciate that you highlighted this small project, but, you know, looked for a contribution to be made and made that, that argument that highlighted that last meeting, because I think it's really important. And also, again, I think it's absolutely critical that we change the, and I know that has been something that you have just worked on so hard, but change the design exception and start moving that out of the staff and behind closed doors and into the public light and with the public knowledge. And I also, it does seem like it would make a lot of sense to have that before the zoning hearing master when the public are there and actually getting the project. So I appreciate how you have highlighted this and moved it forward. I know it's a small project, but I think it's an important measure of the process, example, and a way to kind of do it right and do it well. And this is, you know, not inequitable. I think that's a word that actually the applicant may have used, or an equitable type of requirement in terms of the lesser impacts. But thank you for that. And with that, seeing no further discussion, we do have a motion by Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioner Smith. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. And Mr. Moretta, we will.
Thank you, board members.
No, ma'am, that concludes the agenda for today.
Okay. That's what, I wasn't sure if we, in terms of G3. Okay, thank you. And with that, seeing no further discussion, did we set any kind of record today? Do we? With that, we'll adjourn.
Thank you.